Imagine standing in the pitch black of the Great Smoky Mountains, staring into your own eyes. A man with your exact jawline and your specific smile, but with eyes that don't catch the light. You're frozen as your son Jasper whispers from the tent, "Daddy?" The man wants to come in. Travis was tactical, a man of patterns and protocols who was leading his family toward Clingmans Dome, yet his very perfection became a template for something else. He didn't realize that in these mountains, being an expert doesn't make you safe. It makes you a target for a frequency trap. Tonight, we're breaking down the Smokemont incident, and you need to stay until the very end, because we're revealing the one specific precision tell that search and rescue teams use to identify a mimic in the brush, a rhythmic secret that, if ignored, ensures you will never leave these woods alive. The Thursday started the way most Thursdays do, completely unremarkable. Travis loaded the last of the gear into the back of the 4Runner before 7 in the morning, while the neighborhood was still quiet, and the street lights were still on, and the only sound was the dull thud of a cargo net being cinched over a dry bag. Rosie buckled Jasper into his car seat. Jasper had a juice box and a very serious opinion about which 3 rocks he was allowed to bring. It took 11 minutes to negotiate. Travis let him win. They drove 4 hours south. The Blue Ridge Parkway peeled open ahead of them in long, sweeping curves, the tree line pressing in close on both sides, the sky going from gray to a pale, washed-out blue as the morning warmed up. The leaves along the Oconaluftee Ridge were just starting to turn, amber and rust bleeding into the green at the edges, the last big color push before the cold came and took everything back. Jasper fell asleep somewhere past Asheville, one fist still wrapped around a smooth gray rock he'd named Gerald. Smokemont Campground sits in the Oconaluftee River Valley, deep inside the Great Smoky Mountains National Park in western North Carolina. If you've never been, picture this: a wide, flat river bottom carved between 2 ridge lines, old-growth forest pressing in from every side, the kind of canopy cover that turns noon into something closer to dusk. The campground itself is divided into lettered loops, A, B, C, about 100 sites total, flush toilets, food storage lockers, running water. It is, by most definitions, a comfortable place to spend a night in the woods. Travis had a reservation on Loop B Site 47. He'd mapped it 3 weeks out. By 9 that evening, the fire was already going. Travis had built it the same way he always builds a fire, which is to say, the right way. He'd sourced flat stones from the creek edge 30 feet behind the site, arranged them in a tight ring, sized by thickness so the seams were close. Kindling laid in a precise teepee over a bed of fat wood shavings. 2 hardwood splits underneath in a crosshatch pattern for sustained burn. The flames were exactly the height he wanted, warm enough to push the September chill back past the chairs, controlled enough that no ember could clear the rock perimeter. Bear spray clipped to his left hip, handgun on his right, first aid kit, fixed blade knife, backup headlamp, and a laminated emergency card in his front zip pocket. He had a system. The system had never failed. Rosie sat across the fire from him, both hands wrapped around a mug of instant coffee, knees pulled up, watching the flames. She looked the way she always looked when the day was finally over and no one needed anything from her. Settled. Easy. Like something inside her had exhaled. Jasper had already been out for 45 minutes. He was inside the tent in his sleeping bag, one hand still loosely holding the small flashlight Travis had given him. His own flashlight. He'd asked about that for a month. The problem was Loop B. It was almost at capacity. A toddler 2 sites over going through something emotional. A family of 6 with a Bluetooth speaker bleeding pop country into the tree line. A generator grinding away from an RV parked close enough that Travis could feel the vibration through his camp chair. The air smelled like lighter fluid and citronella. Travis sat with it for 45 minutes. He pulled up his topo map, downloaded offline naturally, and found a finger width of trail pushing southwest from their site. 30 minutes in. No facilities. A flat clearing near a seasonal stream, clearly marked off limits. Real silence, he told Rosie. One night. Just us. Rosie gave him the look. Not a no, not a yes. The calculation look. You've got the bear spray, she said finally. Not a question. An inventory check. He ran the full checklist out loud. Bear spray, handgun, first aid, water, emergency whistle, 3 headlamps. She listened with her eyes closed like she was following a recipe she already knew by heart. Then she stood up and started packing. Travis killed the fire before they left. 3 full pours from his collapsible bucket, the coals hissing and steaming into dark. He counted the pours out loud. 1, 2, 3. Then crouched and checked the ash temperature with the back of his wrist. Cold. He stacked the wet wood off to the side, left the site cleaner than he found it. Because that's what you do. Jasper was half asleep and draped over Travis's shoulder as they stepped off the site and onto the trail. His chin was down. His breathing was slow. Just before they moved past the firelight and into the dark, he lifted one hand, slow and loose, and waved back at the empty campsite. Rosie noticed. Baby, what are you waving at? Jasper didn't answer. He was already back asleep. Travis didn't slow down. He told himself Jasper was dreaming. He told himself that was the kind of thing 5-year-olds do. He told himself a lot of things that night. The new site was everything Travis promised. A natural clearing ringed by old-growth hemlock, the kind of trees that have been here so long they've stopped being trees and started being architecture. The ground was soft underfoot. Years of needlefall packed into something almost springy. 30 yards east, a small seasonal stream moved over flat rock, steady and low, a sound like white noise with a pulse. No other lights in any direction, no generator hum, no Bluetooth country music bleeding through the dark. Just the mountain, doing what mountains do, sitting there, enormous and indifferent, older than anything Travis had ever prepared for. He rebuilt the fire. Same system, different ground. He sourced flat stones from the stream bank, sized them by hand in the dark, ringed them tight. Kindling fat wood, crosshatch hardwood, 12 minutes from bare ground to controlled burn. The flames climbed to exactly the height he wanted, amber and clean, pushing the cold September air back to a respectful distance. He stood back and looked at it with his hands on his hips. And if you know the type, you know the look. That's the look. Rosie had Jasper out of the carrier and zipped into his sleeping bag before Travis had the second split on the fire. She came back out, dropped into her camp chair, pulled her knees up, and wrapped both hands around a fresh mug. The steam curled up and disappeared into the cold. Overhead, through the narrow corridor the hemlock canopy left open, the stars were almost offensive. The kind of sky you forget exists until you're standing under it and suddenly remember that the light pollution back home has been lying to you your whole life. They talked quietly about Jasper's kindergarten teacher who sent a lot of emails, about the bathroom tile they'd been meaning to fix since March, about nothing important in that easy way married people talk when they've stopped performing for each other, and the conversation is just something warm to hold. At one point, Rosie said something low and dry that made Travis laugh, a real one, quiet and surprised, and he shook his head and looked at her across the fire. And for a few minutes, everything was exactly right. That's the thing about this story that is hard to say without it sounding cruel. For a little while, it was perfect. It was exactly what he drove 4 hours for. Then Travis heard his own voice come out of the trees. Just a fragment. A few words. Something he'd said earlier. He couldn't pin down exactly what, but the cadence was unmistakable. His rhythm, his register. Coming from the hemlock stand, maybe 40 feet past the fire ring, slightly to the left. He went completely still. Here's the thing about an echo. An echo follows. It's a response. It comes after. What Travis heard arrived a half-beat early, like a recording that started a fraction of a second before it was supposed to. The words were almost right. Almost. Like something that had learned the shape of them but hadn't fully figured out the weight yet. He ran the catalog immediately. Wind displacement off the ridge, acoustic channeling through the hemlock stand, the stream to the east bouncing frequencies in unexpected directions. Sound moves strange in mountain terrain, especially near water. He had a full explanation assembled before the unease even finished forming. This is what Travis does. This is the system working exactly as designed. He didn't say any of it out loud. He just watched the tree line for a long moment, then put another split on the fire. Rosie set her mug down. Her face had changed. Not dramatically, not the way faces change in movies, just the small version, the version where something lands and she's deciding what to do with it. She had heard her own voice, coming from the direction of the hemlock stand, past the fire ring, soft and clear, calling Jasper's name, the exact way she calls it when she's looking for him, that specific upward lift at the end. Her voice calling her son's name, while she was sitting in her chair with both hands on her mug, not moving, not speaking, not making a sound. Travis stood up slowly. He unclipped the bear spray, held it loose at his side, scanned the tree line with his headlamp, the beam cutting a flat white slice through the dark between the hemlocks. Nothing moved, but the silence that came back was different from the silence before. The before silence had the stream in it, the low pop of the fire, the distant creak of old wood settling in old trees. This silence was flatter, closer, like the mountain had leaned in, like something out there was holding its breath. The fire burned exactly as it should. The rocks were perfectly placed. Travis's system was flawless, every variable accounted for, every contingency covered. He had prepared for everything a reasonable person could name. And something in the dark had been sitting at the edge of the light this whole time, listening to all of it. The fire had burned down to a deep coal glow, still warm, still controlled. Travis had fed it exactly right, the way he fed every fire he'd ever built. The hemlock canopy above had closed the sky down to a narrow corridor of stars. Beyond the fire ring in every direction, the dark was absolute. Not the soft dark of a suburb with its ambient glow bleeding up from the horizon. The real dark, the kind that has mass. Travis was still standing, bear spray in hand, headlamp on, scanning. Rosie hadn't moved from her chair, but she'd put both feet flat on the ground, weight forward, the posture of someone who has decided they are ready to stand up very quickly if they need to. Then they both saw it at the same moment. A shape at the tree line. Just standing there, in the gap between two hemlocks at the edge of the firelight. Human-sized, human-proportioned. Positioned the way a cautious stranger might stop before walking into someone's camp, close enough to see the fire, far enough to still claim they were just passing through. Travis's first read was, "Lost hiker." It happens in these mountains more than the Park Service likes to admit. Disoriented in the dark, wrong trail came toward the light. Totally plausible. He had the explanation built before the feeling even arrived. He called out, steady, not aggressive. "Hey, you doing all right out there? You need help?" Nothing. The shape didn't answer, didn't shift its weight, didn't turn toward the sound of his voice. And that's the part that started pulling at something deep in Travis's chest. Because a person reacts. A person standing in the dark idles. Small unconscious movements, the micro-adjustments of a body that exists inside gravity. A breath you can see in cold September air. This thing just stood, still as a fence post, still as something that had never needed to pretend to be casual before and wasn't sure how. Travis stepped to the edge of the fire ring, put his weight forward. "Hey, I need you to say something or I need you to move on. Right now." The shape tilted its head. Not fast, not dramatic, just a slow, almost curious tilt, the way you tilt your head when you're trying to hear something better or trying to understand something that doesn't quite make sense yet. It was such a small movement. It was the worst thing Travis had ever seen. Rosie was on her feet now, one hand gripping the back of her camp chair. Travis raised the headlamp beam and pushed it across the clearing, directly into the shape's face. The face was his, not similar, not a trick of shadows or distance or a brain connecting dots that weren't there. His face, his jaw, his nose, the particular set of his brow. Wearing his expression, the alert, controlled, assessing look he gets when something isn't adding up and he's working the problem. It was wearing his face the way you wear a coat, like it had found it somewhere and put it on and hadn't quite gotten the fit right. Behind him, very quietly, Rosie said, "Travis." Just his name. That was enough. He didn't lower the beam. "I see it." The shape looked back at him with his own eyes, except the eyes didn't catch the firelight the way eyes should. Light bounces off the surface of an eye. There's moisture there. There's life. There's something home. These gave nothing back. Two flat holes where the reflection should have been. Then from inside the tent, small and sleepy and heartbreakingly normal, "Daddy, the man wants to come in." Travis and Rosie both turned. Pure reflex, unstoppable parental instinct, the kind that doesn't ask permission. Jasper was sitting up inside the tent, rubbing one eye with his fist, pointing at the tent wall beside him. Awake, calm. Fine, just awake. When they turned back, the shape was closer. No sound, no footstep, no rustle of ground cover or snap of a twig. It simply occupied less distance between them than it had 4 seconds ago. The way a problem gets worse while you're looking away from it. Rosie's hand found Travis's arm. Her grip was tight. "What is that?" she whispered. Travis didn't answer, because Travis, for the first time in his adult life, had run the catalog and come up completely empty. Nobody moved. That was the thing. For a full 3 seconds, nobody moved. Travis with his headlamp beam locked on the shape's face. Rosie with her hand clamped on his arm. The shape standing there in the coal amber firelight, wearing Travis's face, doing absolutely nothing. Just watching them. Patient the way something is patient when it has never once needed to hurry. Travis broke first. Not in the way of panic. Travis doesn't panic. He broke the way a circuit trips, clean and automatic, the moment a load exceeds what the system was built to carry. "We go," he said. "Right now, we go." But the shape moved first. Not toward them. That was the part that didn't make sense. The part Travis would turn over in his mind 4 times on the drive up to Clingmans Dome the next morning without ever finding a frame for it. It didn't lunge, it didn't charge. It lifted one hand, Travis's hand, the same wide knuckles, the same slight bend in the ring finger from a break that never set right. And it pointed. Slowly, deliberately, at the tent, at Jasper. Rosie made a sound Travis had never heard from her before. Not a scream. something below a scream, something that came from a place that doesn't have a name. Travis stepped in front of her. He raised the bear spray, thumb on the trigger, arm extended, and he spoke to the thing in the clearest voice he had. "Do not move. Do not take one step toward that tent." The shape lowered its hand. Then it smiled. Travis's smile. His exact smile. The one that's slightly more pronounced on the left side. The one Rosie has told him about 100 times. The one that shows up when he's figured something out and he knows it, and he's giving you 1 second to catch up before he tells you. His smile, on that borrowed face, in the firelight, at 11 o'clock at night in a closed section of the Great Smoky Mountains. It smiled at him like it understood something about this moment that he didn't. And then it spoke. Travis's voice came out of it. Not a fragment this time, not a half-heard echo from the tree line. Full and clear and close, his exact voice, his cadence, his register, the particular way he compresses his words when he's being direct. It said the thing he had said to Rosie 4 hours ago, back at Loop B, when he showed her the topo map and talked her into leaving the campsite. Real silence one night, just us. Rosie grabbed his arm with both hands. The shape held the smile for 1 more second. Then it tilted its head again, that same slow, curious tilt from before, and turned to look directly at the tent. Not glancing, not scanning. It looked at the tent the way you look at something you've already decided about. That was enough. "Rosie!" Travis didn't look away from the shape. "Get Jasper. Right now. Don't run. Just go." She went. Travis stood at the edge of the fire ring with the bear spray raised, watching the shape the way you watch a dog that hasn't decided yet. It didn't follow Rosie. It didn't move at all. It just watched him watch it, with his own eyes that gave nothing back. In his own face that fit just slightly wrong, standing in the dark with a patience that felt ancient and total and completely without need. Rosie came back out of the tent with Jasper wrapped against her chest, his legs around her waist, his small flashlight still clutched in one fist. He was awake and quiet, his chin hooked over her shoulder, watching the shape with the wide, untroubled eyes of a 5-year-old who doesn't have the category for what he's looking at yet. Not scared, just watching. The way you watch something interesting that hasn't been explained to you. Travis began to back toward the trail, slow, deliberate, keeping himself between his family and the firelight. The shape watched them go. It didn't follow. It didn't call out. It stood in the amber glow of the dying fire, Travis's fire, built by Travis's system, ringed by stones Travis had sized and placed himself. And it watched with an expression that Travis would spend a long time trying to name later and never quite get there. Not hunger, not anger. Something closer to satisfaction. The look of something that got what it came for. Rosie scooped a rock off the ground as they passed the fire ring. Pure instinct. Pure useless human defiance. She hurled it hard into the brush near the shape. It crashed through the undergrowth, loud and blunt and completely meaningless. The shape didn't flinch, didn't blink, didn't acknowledge the rock any more than a mountain acknowledges weather. They hit the trail. Rosie was crying, not loud, not breaking down, just crying the way you cry when your body decides it's doing that now, regardless of what you want. Quiet and continuous, her face pressed into the top of Jasper's head as they moved fast through the dark. Travis walked backwards for 30 seconds, headlamp sweeping, bear spray up, eyes on the clearing until the hemlock closed behind them and the firelight disappeared. Then he turned forward and walked. He didn't run. Running was how you fell. Running was how you twisted an ankle a mile from the trailhead in the dark with your 5-year-old and your wife and something behind you that knew your voice. He walked fast, and he counted his steps, and he kept his headlamp beam low on the trail, and he did not look back. 30 seconds down the trail, Jasper's voice floated out of the dark behind them. Not from Jasper. Jasper was right there, warm and solid against Rosie's chest, his flashlight bobbing with her stride. From the dark. From the clearing they'd just left. Small and bright and exact, the way Jasper's voice sounds first thing in the morning, unhurried and light. "Daddy, come back!" Travis did not stop walking. He did not look back. He reached out in the dark until he found Rosie's hand, and he held it and he kept moving. That was the hardest thing he had ever done. They didn't go back for the tent. Travis made that call before they hit the trailhead. The chairs, the camp mugs, the carefully sourced firestones, the dry bag in its cinched cargo net, all of it stayed. He put Rosie and Jasper in the 4Runner, locked the doors, and drove without speaking. Jasper was asleep before they cleared the campground road. He woke up at a gas station outside Bryson City, asking for a breakfast sandwich and asking about Gerald, the rock he'd named on the walk-in. He wanted to bring Gerald home. He wanted to put him on his windowsill. Jasper thought it was a camping adventure. He would tell his kindergarten teacher about it Monday morning with complete enthusiasm. Rosie held Travis's hand on the ramp up to the observation tower, walking slightly ahead, not saying anything. She hadn't brought up the night before. She wouldn't today. Not avoidance, more like certain things don't have language yet. And forcing words onto them too early just makes them smaller than they actually are. Travis stood at the railing at 6,643 feet, the highest point in the Great Smoky Mountains, and turned the bear spray canister over and over in his hands, still clipped, never fired. Ridge after ridge dissolved into blue morning haze below him, going on forever, ancient and indifferent. He was still looking for the logic error. He hadn't found one yet. Here is what Travis didn't know standing at that railing. What was in those woods has a name in these mountains, though most people who use it do so quietly and only once: a mimic. And the first thing you need to understand is that a mimic doesn't have a true shape. It has a close enough shape. That's always the tell. The details never land exactly right. Eyes set a fraction too wide. A smile that's mostly correct but carries nothing behind it, the way a photograph of a fire gives you no heat. Travis's face on something that had never once needed a face before, worn like a coat it found on the ground. The second thing is this: a mimic doesn't speak. It replays. Everything Travis and Rosie said around that fire went straight into it like a tape recorder running in the dark. Real silence. One night. Just us. It didn't generate those words. It retrieved them, which means it was listening long before they knew it was there. Long before the trail. Maybe since the campground. Maybe longer. In the mountains, they also call it the not deer, because mimics don't just steal human shapes. Hunters have reported deer standing at the tree line with eyes facing forward, predator eyes, on a prey animal's face. Joints bending the wrong direction. A stillness that has nothing to do with grazing. If you see that in the woods, you are not looking at a deer. You are looking at something that found a deer shape and hasn't perfected it yet, waiting for you to get close enough to study something better. The old rules on this are specific. You do not acknowledge what you cannot explain, because acknowledgement is an invitation. Travis called out to it, asked if it needed help. By the operating logic of these mountains, he opened the door himself. You do not answer your name from a place it shouldn't be coming from. Rosie heard her own voice call Jasper's name from a dark tree line while she sat perfectly still, and her face changed. That was the lock. That was the mimic finding her frequency and keeping it. You do not whistle at night. Whistling is a location signal. To us, it's a tune. To everything in the dark, it's a dinner bell telling them exactly where the lungs are. And if you hear someone screaming for help and the scream repeats, perfectly, rhythmically, every 30 seconds like a recording on a loop, you walk the other direction. Real panic is ragged and desperate and exhausted. Mimics are precise. That precision is the tell. Travis did everything right. His fire was perfect. His exit was clean and tactical and calm. You will not find a single flaw in how he handled that night. Except one. He went where the signs told him not to go, and he brought his whole self in with him, his voice, his family, his patterns, his careful fire. And something in the dark sat at the edge of the light and took careful notes on all of it. The signs aren't over-caution. They exist because someone survived long enough to write down what happened to the people who didn't. Stay on the trail. Answer nothing. Keep your mouth shut after dark. And if the trees start sounding like your family, run the other way. Something in those mountains already knows what happens when you don't. It has been there long enough to learn your voice, your habits, your children's names. It has been waiting, very patiently, for you to be impressive about it.